Headphones in street photography is one of those things that is weirdly controversial, and it's probably a bit of a dead horse, but I think that it's fun to discuss this. And so there's two different schools of thought, right? We've got the greats over here, who typically seem to agree with Joel Meyerowitz, who says you need to tune into the rhythm of the street, and you need to be aware of what's going on around you. And yes, I completely agree, but I also don't do that, and I think that's what allows me to get better photos. And I think it's actually kind of simple in terms of who would benefit from shooting with headphones and who wouldn't. And so let's discuss it. Let's talk about different pros and cons and see whether shooting with headphones is right for you. And so to start things off, you've got the Joel Meyerowitz approach, right? Where if you've got your headphones in, you're going to have reduced situational awareness. And let's say you're taking a photo of a wall. There's just some nice light on it, and you're like, yeah, this wall is the one. And then there's two dudes over your shoulder fighting, and they're throwing haymakers, there's blood splattering everywhere. It's like a proper insane moment, and they're in beautiful light. But you're here just bopping away, having a good time, looking at this wall. And I completely agree. I think that you're going to miss those opportunities, which sucks. And having situational awareness is one of the most important things that we need as street photographers, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those stories, for those moments, right? But how often does that happen? I would argue not that often, but I'd also argue that it only needs to happen once, and then you've got a world-class image. You've then got an image that genuinely separates your work and probably defines you as a photographer and may even transcend you as a creative. And so I agree with all of that. But the upsides of having headphones in, I can't get over them. I love shooting with headphones in, especially with electronic music, and I'm gonna get to that later. But I think that the flow state that you get when you've got headphones in is unrivaled, right? And I think that you almost become more aware. And so what I mean by that is when you've got your headphones in, you're in your own world. Nothing else matters. It's you and the scene, and you don't feel the pressure of like other people looking at me, seeing what I'm up to, and like I don't get any of that because I'm in my own world. I am able to purely focus on what I'm doing, and it feels almost meditative, which is so fantastic, right? And this will keep me locked in to a specific scene, because it's so easy to find a scene that you like and then kind of go, I'm getting a bit bored. Yeah, I can't bother to wait. But if I'm listening to a serious mix that is flying along and I'm having a great time, just enjoying that, then I can sit there for ages and wait for that moment, that special moment, and arguably help me get those better photos. And I almost think that, and this is probably going to sound a little far-fetched, but by eliminating one of your senses, you then become heightened in your others. And obviously, it's extreme, but people that lose their sight can do things with their hearing that other people, it feels like a complete other world, right? And I think that by simplifying our senses, we kind of, not to the same extent, but we kind of get slowly towards that. We become so much more aware of our surroundings. And yes, if there's people fighting round a corner, I'm not going to be able to hear them. But I think that I'm so much more aware of what's going on around me when I have my headphones in, and I'm obsessing about the scene rather than letting my thoughts go. That's another advantage of having headphones, is your thoughts stay on track, because it's like, alright, it's this mix that I'm listening to, or it's the scene around me, versus I think that your thoughts can start spiraling, you can start thinking about other things, when you don't have your headphones in. So I think that as someone whose mind likes to just go off in a million different directions, it keeps you focused, it keeps me direct, which is almost invaluable to me. And I think it also sets the mood, right? Because if you're listening to like a super energetic mix or a super tranquil mix, your persona, your awareness, everything is kind of guided by this thing, by the mood and the soundtrack of your reality that you're living in. And then that can guide you to start taking photos in a certain kind of way. I presume that if you were listening to a super beautiful classical kind of mix, I say mix, just, you know what I mean, just a series of songs, that would help you see beauty. You'd probably notice love more. You'd be interpreting the scenes that you see in almost like in a musical movie like way because of the sounds that you're listening to, which I think is amazing. It's so creatively fun, and that's something that you just can't really do in your own world. But maybe I suppose you could argue that you are, whilst you're not tuning in to the sounds you're listening to, maybe you're tuning into yourself more. Maybe that's going to allow you to create images that mean more to you. I don't know, there's pros and cons to everything, right? And I think that a small little bonus is that if I've got my headphones in, people are less likely to go, what are you up to? And so having little headphones in, I think, really help. And so how I see all of this, how I think that we as creatives should think about it, is are you being compositionally driven or are you being story driven? Because I think that if you're looking for moments and you're being reactive, and you're probably, if you're in London, you're walking down Oxford Street, then yeah, I reckon headphones out, because there's so much going on that you need to hear when there's commotion, and you need to tune into the rhythm of the street. But I think if you're compositionally driven, you're more of a fisher, someone that likes to spend time developing a scene, building on it, having patience with it. That's when I think headphones in is a hack. I think it is so helpful. And you can kind of see generally the different photographers, their different takes. If they're more of a hunter, they think one thing. If they're more of a fisher, they think the other thing. Got some very useful tips. I think electronic music is the best. Because as soon as you've got lyrics, you start thinking about lyrics, right? Whereas electronic music is just all about the energy and the movement, and that's what I like to personally convey in my images. I feel like that probably guides what I do, because my images, I suppose, at least to me, they feel dynamic, and maybe that's because I've got this energy in my head pulsing through. Whereas I think that if you start going for lyrics, you start singing along, and you start removing yourself from the scene. And so electronic music as well doesn't have a start and an end. You're not picking up your phone to skip songs, whatever. You're just locked in. In terms of actual headphones, there's so many different kinds to choose from. I've got, from my DJ days, the Sennheiser HD25s, which are good, but not that practical with the wire. The best headphones. I'm a corporate shill, I'll admit it. I think that Apple have absolutely smashed it with the AirPod Pro 2s. I think these are the 2.5s. The release that wasn't a release, but I loved it. I think they are so good for two different reasons. Number one, the bass response on these is fantastic for such a small headphone whilst having transparency mode. And so if you've got other headphones that don't have seal, don't have noise cancelling, you hear everything and you don't get any bass. Whereas with these, you get bass. So electronic music with these, thumbs up. And also, when you go on the tube and it sounds like the Banshee is screaming into your soul as you're going along the Victoria line, oh my god, the noise cancelling on these saves the day every day. And so I absolutely love these. They're expensive. Maybe you get the Sonys. Maybe. don't know, haven't used them, but I think they'll probably do exactly the same job. And so let me know whether you are a headphones in kind of person, whether you agree with maybe electronic mixes, whether you actually think that listening to Mongolian throat singing might be the jam. Let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this more relaxed video, because I quite enjoyed creating it. So until next time, I shall see you in the street. That was lame. We'll go with it.